failure is not forever. Like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to totally mess up projects. You're going to have angry clients. You're going to have issues. In our industry, you just don't make the same mistake twice.
Welcome back to another episode of the Rough Cut Club. I am your host, Joey Nicotra, here today in a background that may not look that familiar to you if you're joining us online, but this background is very familiar to me, and it is because I have spent 4 years of my life in this very room learning how to be a filmmaker. And today I'm joined with my co-host, Shane Reitzammer. And we, for those of you who are just listening, are at the University of North Texas today. And we are here with a live audience talking all things about how to turn your degree into a career once wrapping up school. So Shane, man, excited to jump in.
This isn't just any room, bro. This is 184.
184.
Back in the day, it was RTVF,
yes.
But now it's Media Arts, I hear.
Yep.
And great to be back, being on the campus, seeing the future of filmmaking sitting right in front of us.
Super awesome, man. I've spent many mornings in this room after having come off of all night of studying for really difficult tests, and so it is very full circle to be back in this room, and I'm excited to be here and jump in, man.
Studying,
yeah,
good.
Exactly. Lots of Red Bull and Monster, but man, so I remember as a student when I was in school, one of the biggest stressors on my mind was how to take the degree that I had been working towards for 4 years and actually turn that into something after school got out. And I remember like being a student, like you're constantly looking at like all the grades that you have, you know, and like you just get stuck in this web that feels like school. And then as you approach to become a senior, you're like, wait, this is getting real. I have to turn this into something that matters. And this is what I'm gonna do with the rest of my life. And the thought started to weigh on me heavily. I don't know if it did you.
Oh yeah.
But I remember it weighing on me pretty heavily and just not having any idea what I was gonna do. And so offline, we kind of broke out what you can do into basically 4 different sections to utilizing your degree and building a career. And essentially the first one that we'll kind of go over is basically becoming a freelancer. And that's really the route that I chose to go. And I know that you took a different route. You started building a production company, so we'll talk about building a production company. And then we'll also get into being hired by a production company, being a W-2 employee.
And then finally, and I'm jumping in for Joey
Yeah.
as he's parched with that opening. We'll talk about TV and live sports, what it looks like to get into broadcast and pursuing a career that way. And Joey, I got to jump in, man, because so I graduated in 2009. It was a different animal, different career opportunities back then, right? So freelance wasn't even really a thing that I was aware of in 2009. The industry looked totally different. We were still on mini DV tape. We weren't even on the mini DVD that I think you got to experience. And so it was either when I graduated, it was you either moved to LA, you moved to New York, or you get into the television world in the DFW area, right? So the live TV, news, sports, something like that. There wasn't as many production companies, so the opportunity to freelance wasn't as prevalent as it is now, especially after COVID. Once COVID happened, I think the idea of being your own boss, being able to manage the business and the art side of your career really bloomed after 2020 and the work from home. But Joey, definitely, I think you kind of hit the very beginning of what it was like to freelance, right?
Yeah.
2017 you graduated?
2017 graduated.
So you came out, there was a lot of production companies just starting up. I was in my 7th year at that point, so still a pretty young production company. I was still figuring out still figuring out things today, even after 14 years. You're always learning. So what would you say some of the biggest things are in order to make freelance a career?
Yeah. So for me, the biggest thing with freelancing, just to even kick this whole thing off, is whenever you are a freelancer, you have to learn how to do all aspects of running a business. And so basically, you are the business. So what that means is all of the marketing, you're marketing yourself as the company that you'd get hired by. So you have to learn the marketing side. You have to learn like the back end business side in terms of just like doing contracts, negotiating with clients for rates, doing taxes properly and not getting burned by the IRS. You have to learn how to actually, send deliverables and you're managing basically every aspect of an entire business, but you're doing it, especially when you graduate college, at a really small scale. And the goal is to basically grow that into more gigs and expand your network. Which leads me into one of the second things is you hear all the time, like your net worth is your network or your network is your net worth. And, networking is one of the most important things that you can do. And as a freelancer, it's 100% true. It's not cliche at all in the slightest. Even to this day, before this episode started, there was a professor that walked in and he'd been a freelancer for 40 years, and he was passing me his business card because even though he's a professor here, he's like, in case there's a gig, here's my card.
Always be networking.
Always. And it's like, that's like the most like, just like you can
OG
tell that
freelancer.
guy is a
OG
freelancer and has
yeah.
been doing it for a long time because he's always trying to connect with people and meet people.
Give us like real quick 3 of your like top things to do for networking. Because you can say like network, right? Yeah. But when I even hear that, like, okay, what do you do? Because you stay booked. Joey, just so you know, like works for probably 100 different video productions. I'm jealous a lot of the times because he's working for other production companies. I only want him to work for me, but he stays very, very busy. He's very booked. So give us like 3 of your best networking tips.
Yeah.
How do you network?
So this is a little bit different from how some freelancers do it, but this was one of the biggest eye-opening things for me as a freelancer. Like if I could only give you one thing, it would be this. Instead of networking with individual people and individual companies to try to get a project or do a video for them, my goal was to focus on building relationships with as many production companies and agencies as I could, because I could shake hands with 3 agencies or video production companies, and each one of them may send me 50 plus jobs that year. And so instead of trying to go and find 100 jobs to fill my calendar up for the year, I could find 3 people and be their go-to guy for every project that they have within their organization, and I stay booked the whole year. And so right out of college, that was actually what I did that was incredibly helpful for me, really, and it got started with you. And so like I had met him probably 3 months out of graduating from college, and he started feeding me all the projects that he had coming in because I was able to get them done and just, be a relief for him. So, yeah.
I don't want to spend too much time, but you got to share about how we got connected too, because this is a beginning, another part of networking that I think is 100%. Very important.
So there's actually a UNT alumni Facebook group that I got connected with. And I essentially got on, and my very first post that I ever saw once I got connected was a dude by Shane Wright-Zammer who was looking for shooters for a project. And so I was out there fishing for people who were looking to give jobs away. And then I was proactive about saying, hey, I would love to go and work for you. Here's what is in my gear list. Here's some projects that I've done that are in my reel. Would love to work with you. And so essentially, when I was getting started, I was doing that on steroids, where it was I was hitting every company that I could, and instead of individual businesses, I was hitting up companies that would feed me tons of work for the year. And this was super impactful for me to get tons of jobs right out of school, because I remember a lot of my buddies that went to school with me, they tried the freelance thing and then immediately jumped W-2 because it's hard. It's definitely, in my opinion, the hardest, and it's a lot similar to building a production company, but it's hard because you have to be self-regulated, self-managed, and all of that. But if you can find a couple of companies that will feed you work consistently, it gets way easier to become a freelancer. So that's like the biggest thing that I can say. And I actually, one of the things that I did is there's a term that people may or may not have heard, but it's called permalance. And basically that's where you're permanently a freelancer with certain organizations. And so that's really the route that I went, is because I had a few companies that would permanently just feed me everything that they could, but that fed my freelance career where I could stay a freelancer without having to find 100 different clients right out the gate. And so that was definitely super impactful for me. The other thing that I would note too is I have found, and this is a struggle for myself, but being active on social media has been something that has been huge in terms of getting more jobs. You're marketing yourself every single time you put a social media post out. And so if you can be putting your work out, behind the scenes out, people are gonna start hitting you up and knowing you as the filmmaker to start bringing those jobs your way. And when the work looks good and you're putting your reel out there for the public to see, now the jobs are gonna start knocking on your door instead of you knocking on their door.
And I would say don't sleep on that too, because I've seen Joey, he'll tell me, he'll say, man, I posted this and I got people in my DMs asking me to come out and work on their projects, right? So, you know, I'm almost 40. I'm not a big social media guy, okay? I don't like posting anything except my kids. But in business and in freelance, and you are a business if you're gonna freelance, you need to be advertising and marketing yourself. And Instagram is a great place to freely market yourself, right? So Joey would share not only finished projects that you've completed, right? That you have the rights to share. Make sure you have the rights to share the project if you've worked for another production company, but behind the scenes, right? Show your personality. I'm kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but me as a production company, when I'm looking for people that I want to hire, that's one of the things we might check out is social media. I'm also looking to see, what are you posting on social media? Are you responsible? Are you crazy? Are you party? Well, you know, I want to kind of get to know you, and sometimes social media is a reflection of some of what you're wanting to display, right? So keep that in mind when you are posting. If you go to Joey's social, if you go to mine, like I said, you're going to see chickens, you're going to see my kids, you're going to see just random life. You go to Joey's, it's all film, right? Everything on there, the majority, I'd say 90%. Am I right?
Yeah.
And so it is videos that he's done, projects he's completed, and then BTS photos and videos of himself.
Your social media account is going to be the best business card that you can hand to someone. They're going to get a chance to go and look through all of the work that you've been doing, catch a feel for how professional you are, and everything that he really covered. But I would actually, you know, I remember being so hung up on trying to make a business card right when I got out of college. And in general, if you just focus on building your social media up, that's going to be a way better business card than actually pouring money into a piece of paper with your number on it. That's ultimately should probably have your social media on it as well.
I'll be honest, business cards get thrown away all the time. And so it's not that you shouldn't do it. We've gone to flyers, they're a little bigger. They have QR codes, and not everybody throws business cards away. But there are digital business cards. You can get a QR code, right? Get somebody to put their info into their phone, right? Instead of, I've got a card, I'm gonna put it in my pocket, and I hope I remember to put your info or like look you up, right? Start trying to create that relationship. Follow them, you know, what's your Instagram handle? What's your TikTok? Whatever you can to get connected and keep that line of communication going with those individuals is a great way to not be forgotten in the sea of business cards. So you gotta figure out how to stand out. And social media and being present on there is definitely one way that I've seen Joey be really successful standing out.
Yeah. I feel like I could probably turn this into an entire episode in and of itself, but for the sake of time, I'd love to move to building a production company and really turn it over to you in terms of, because right when you were out of school, you kind of took the route of building a business to work underneath instead of doing the freelance route. And so kick off what that was like for you.
So I think the biggest thing, and this could be a whole masterclass too, so I'm going to keep it short because I do think it's probably a minority. Well, let me ask this question. How many people like even think about maybe wanting to start a business, like own their own studio? Okay, more than I thought. That's awesome. That's awesome. So it is an amazing journey. It is very hard. To Joey's point, the biggest thing that I learned very quickly on is that you got to learn business first. I was in love with the art. Coming to University of North Texas, being an RTVF or media arts major, I mean, I probably was like all of you. I'm like, I want to direct, feature films. I want to make episodic content. I want to make ad agency commercials, and that's great. You want to have that passion burning, right? You want to have that purpose, your why. But what you really have to realize is not only learning all of that art, but you really have to understand business 101. And so learning business 101, you got to know what profit and loss means, right? How to balance a budget. You got to understand margins, right? So when you're hiring other people, you got to understand that I got to pay Joey X amount of dollars. Well, I got to margin and mark that up and charge the client a specific amount because why? Not because, partly, yes, I need to make a living as well and make money on hiring out an entire crew, but it costs money to pay Joey. It costs money to send him a 1099 at the end of the year or his W-9. It costs money to pay your CPA to do your taxes. So there's all these things that you don't really know until you get into it or you ask somebody that's going to cost you a bunch of money to operate a business. Taxes, don't sleep on taxes. So like Joey was saying, that was a hard lesson that I learned. Starting your own business, you are a freelancer, right? You're just a solo operator and you're hoping that you're going to grow it into multiple people.
The biggest thing is that you're not taking your name and making that the business. You're taking some other name and operating as if you're not the front man for that business. So one day that you can have other people come in and people don't expect Shane Wright-Zammer Films. If Shane Wright-Zammer doesn't show up because he's contracting out 3 different contractors, well, now it doesn't feel weird for the customer when Joey shows up. If it's Joey Nicotra Films and Shane shows up, it starts to feel weird in that way. And so he branded the company in something that had nothing to do with his name so that he had the capabilities of hiring out other people down the road.
Absolutely. And there are some production companies that will have their namesake in the name. There's nothing wrong with that too, but this is the next part. You got to have a branding strategy, right? My strategy from the beginning was that I wanted to, I don't like working alone. I like to collaborate with people and be creative in teams, right? And at the beginning, I didn't have that luxury. I had to learn how to do video, audio. That's why I was asking earlier, who's interested in radio? Who's interested in, because you have to be and at least a professional, maybe not an expert, but a professional in all of those areas, right? I was going to set and I was lighting my own things. I was directing. I was producing. I was coming up with questions. I was securing contracts with the clients. I was marketing myself. I'd show up on set, video, audio, lighting. Then I go home. I would edit the content. Then I would upload it. I did file management, all of that, right? You got to understand all of that. Or if I could do it all over again, let me give you this one hack. And I don't think I've shared this with you. If I could do it over again, I would have found 1 or 2 friends or 1 or 2 collaborators at the very start. Because again, it's so much to carry by yourself. So if you can find somebody that likes to do contracts or likes to do budgeting, right? They're like, I'm really good with numbers. I'm a producer type. I can budget and figure out how to make this project profitable for us and for the client. And if you can find somebody that is a cinematographer, they're just really good at what they do with lighting, and maybe you're good at audio, right? Assemble your team, I would say, and I think that is the biggest hack that I didn't take advantage of. Again, it was a different landscape when I was starting. It was probably pretty crazy to try to start a production company. In fact, when I started, I worked for a few little production companies and saw just things go horribly wrong with them, and I used that. I learned from their mistakes, right? So I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but one of the biggest things too is be ready to learn from your mistakes, right? Failure is not forever. Like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to totally mess up projects. You're going to have angry clients, and that's okay. You're going to, on set, even working for people, you're going to drop a lens. Hopefully you don't. I don't want to put that evil on you. Don't drop a lens. You're going to have issues. In our industry, you just don't make the same mistake twice, right? And so that's what I learned starting a business is, as soon as you make a mistake, I remember this one project. I had it was me and another shooter, and we went to, it was actually a wedding. We did wedding films, we did events, we did corporate video. We went into the shoot, came back, got the footage, and the second shooter had shot everything in 720 HD, and I needed the final film to be 1080 HD, and so it's cropped in, and I sat there and went, I cannot repair this. You know what I mean? Like, I thought there was no way out. I thought I was going to be out all this money. I needed to, anyway. So, but I quickly learned checks and balances and processes and systems. And that's my next point, is you got to build process and systems. So there's a checklist for your second shooter. Are you shooting in 1080 HD? Did you clean your lens? Joey, you can remember we scaled the company together, Joey definitely helped us scale in 2017. I had built it to a certain size. Joey came in. We scaled it even bigger. And we had to start telling people, don't forget to wipe your lenses, because we had a spot on a lens. So you learn these little things, right? Some things that you probably shouldn't have to. They're professionals. But you learn processes and systems, checks and balances to be able to run your business. And that's on the art side, and that's on the business side, right? You also have to think, can I do this project? Will it make enough profit with the timeline and window, right? You have to say no to clients too. That's one I'm still learning after 14 years. I like to say yes, right? I like to be a solutions-driven company, but sometimes the client is not the right fit. Sometimes the deadline is not going to be in your capabilities. And so you have to be comfortable with being able to turn down projects and look at the long-term gain that you just saved yourself from avoiding either a specific kind of client or a specific kind of project that would have caused your future gain to not happen.
Me and Shane kind of butt heads on this a little bit from time to time, but I think to a degree he will agree with me. But being able to niche down too as a company and determine what types of videos are you good at. Hey, you built a wedding films company, and that's a niche in and of itself. You do one specific type of film, and then in the corporate and commercial space, the area gets a little bit more gray.
I'm a diversify guy. I like having, so COVID rolled around, a lot of my competitors, there's a lot of people that went out of business. And we were scared as well, right? Everybody was. The whole world changed. But I had so many different product lines, from wedding videography. Well, that was all gone, right? So if you were only doing wedding videography, if you niched down and you were only doing wedding videography, you're out of business. Some of them survived, right? There was things that you could do. We had event videography. That was gone. All that stuff's gone, right? Even corporate interviews, all that stuff, testimonials, that's gone. We couldn't do any of that. We had live stream. We had already kind of developed a little bit of that product, and then we deployed it, right? We started doing church content, government, nonprofit content, right? They still had to reach their audience. They still had to get communication out. PR. Doesn't sound very fun, doesn't sound very sexy, but it still paid the bills. I was still able to employ our contractors, and that's how we survived. So I agree with Joey to some extent, because I think finding specialties is very good. What I like to do is have multiple specialties as a business, right? And you have to scale and be big enough to be able to do that as well.
I think you grow into that, though.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. Definitely when I started, pre-Joey, it was weddings and events and a little bit of corporate stuff. Now we look at the company, we've probably got about 9 different product lines, maybe 10 at this point. Yeah. With a studio, a podcast service.
That also came over the course of a decade, too.
And that is what I'm saying, is scaling up and having the team members in place.
Yep.
There's so much into that, but I would say be ready to accept failure, right? And don't be too hard on yourself. I think Mark Cuban says in his book,
Business is
a sport, or I can't remember his book's title.
Business is like the greatest sport or something.
Yeah, it's a great book. I actually read it right after that failure of a project, because I was so down on myself, and I read it. And Mark Cuban, billionaire, says, you can fail 1,000 times. All you have to be right is once. And it's so true. You want to be right more than once, on our level, right? Billionaires can say the one-time thing.
Yeah.
We got to be right a little more than that. But everybody fails, right? It's only the people that get back up and keep going are going to be the ones that still have businesses, that survive the tides of things like COVID, things like market crashes, right? And so definitely be ready to fail forward, as we like to say. I would say assemble a team so you can divide the things that you don't want to do, and learn the business. Hands down, the most important thing, learn how to be a business. Maybe take some business classes.
Well,
add those onto your.
And I was even going to jump in. When you actually set your end goal to own a production company, you have to really be excited about growing and doing the business elements of it. Because if you love the creative aspects of filmmaking and you want to be on set all the time and doing all of the creative work, doing some of the editing and the writing and whatever, growing the business side, once you actually become successful at it, ultimately you have to manage and juggle more and more of just business for a creative company rather than doing creative things and owning a company. And so that was one of the things that we both kind of learned, like as the business grew, you have to manage employees and you have to manage contracts and invoices and all of these things that you do in any line of work. It's a business, it's show business. And so if you are excited about running a company in a creative atmosphere, then it's definitely for you. But if you want to be on set all the time and be that creative force driving projects, there's a level that you get to do that at, but there's also a degree that you have to pull back from that as the company grows and balance both the art and the business.
Definitely true, yeah. So, and over the years, just real quick, and we'll jump to the next thing.
Yeah.
But I have been more and more removed from set. Like, I don't know if you heard when we were setting up, I'm like, I don't know how to set up these cameras anymore. That's not my department. I don't know how to do it. I know how to talk to a client, close a deal, write a contract, make sure the insurance is in place, balance a budget, pay my contractors,
and direct
market
and produce.
the business. And I still get to be on set and direct. I direct broadcast commercials and spots and documentaries. So I get to still do some of the fun art stuff that we all dreamed about. But a lot of my time is taken up in the business side, right? And so last point is find people that can replace you. So always be hiring and training the next generation of people. And that's what we're doing at Cinema Story, even with our internship program, is developing people so that then we can all divide and conquer, right? So that way you can still enjoy the art and the business side of things.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump to TV real quick. I
Yeah.
know that's probably the quickest one because I want to get to being hired by a production company because I think that's a great starting point for a lot of people. It's a little bit more of security. So TV and sports broadcast, there's a lot of opportunity out there, right? DFW is a big market for that. I can think of two examples that I'll share really quick. Caleb is one of our contractors that shoots weddings and events and corporate stuff for us. He got on through networking connections on the PBR circuit, right? So this is an example of getting on a national kind of program. He now travels all over the nation shooting for PBR, like rodeo type stuff, right? And so one way would be, again, and we'll get to this with the getting hired by a production company, but putting in your resume, doing those networking connections with these television stations, looking for, and networks, television stations and networks, and looking for postings, job postings, right? So look on LinkedIn, look on Indeed, call the different studios and networks. And then I would finally say on that too, find producers. Producers are your highway to jobs, right? So producers are going to be the people that crew up the projects. Directors are a great find as well in the commercial and narrative space, but definitely in the live TV space, producers are your guys. And you might not be able to get to the producer, right? But who knows that producer and is close to them and can get you, who can get you onto a set, and then you can start that relationship.
Yeah, it's the 6 degrees of separation thing. If you know somebody that knows the gatekeeper to the job, just trying to, again, going back to networking, just developing all of those relationships. Funny enough, Caleb, the guy that he's referencing, He booked out like 42 weeks, like right at the beginning of the year, just with this one TV network, and he still had like days off and whatnot, but he basically booked his year up in one contract, and that goes back to my other point about finding the agencies that you can connect with, that he just streamlined not having to go look for work for a year. But I had no relationship with anybody in that TV sector, but I knew Caleb, and they needed a camera operator on one of the days, and because I knew Caleb actually reached out to me and said, hey, we need a guy. The producers came to the crew and said, who's a trustworthy operator that you can bring on to be a day player for the rodeo? And so I went out and I cam opt for a television spot with him because I knew the guy that knew the producer.
I think that could segue us into getting hired by a production company, because I would say this I've seen this to be so true. I'm saying, try to get in with a producer. That's really hard to do, right? Even a studio owner. I get tons of resumes every week, right? I get connections on LinkedIn, and I try to look at them, and I'm always looking for new talent. But I'm also drowning in the business of running a business, right? I'm trying to close deals. I'm trying to, like I said, balance budgets, all of those things. And so one of the best things I could say, even for the event production, getting hired by a production company or the freelance world, make connections with everybody in that company, right? So if you went to, let's say Cinema Story was your target, and you went on LinkedIn and you found as many people that worked at Cinema Story as possible, and then you figured out, yeah, maybe I'll reach out to them on LinkedIn. Okay, but maybe they're not active artists. I don't know if Joey ever checks his LinkedIn. I'll be honest. But you know what?
Once a year.
He's going to be on his Instagram, right? He's on his Instagram. So you might look that up and be like, oh, Joey's the creative director. He's a DP, freelancer. He works for Cinema Story. I'll message him on LinkedIn. Don't quit there, because he's not going to respond there. Go hit him on Instagram. Go creep on him. Find him on Instagram. Find him on Facebook. Find him on TikTok. Try to reach out and get connected with those people, so that way you can open that door, because to his point, a lot of times producers, directors will be so busy or inundated with so much noise that I'm going to go to Joey and say, Joey, who do you trust for a camera operator?
Yeah.
Who are you going to hire for? I need a gaffer. I need an entire production unit because I got you on another set and I need a whole nother unit.
Totally.
And Joey then he becomes the gatekeeper, right? So think about that when you're looking at production companies or you're trying to get hired. Sometimes we all try to go for even me. So when I'm trying to break through and sell a business, right? I don't just go to the CEO and say, hey, I want to make you a commercial. He doesn't care, right? He's so busy on other things. I need to find the marketing director. I need to find the communications person. I'm trying to hit as many different points of entry as I can so that they're like, do you know who this Shane guy is? He keeps messaging me. That's what you want. You want people to be like, oh yeah, I've heard that name. Yeah, he and I are DMing back and forth, right? So get your name known by connecting with multiple people. Now, I will say, don't be creepy. Like, don't over text and message. Like, know the limits.
You will get blocked.
Yeah, you will get blocked. But that is one definitely way that would work when you're trying to get in on a lot of different levels, even from the freelance side, I would say. I mean, some of the times I would assume that you got in with a producer or a director, but you've gotten a lot of gigs just from another DP or a gaffer or a first AC.
Yeah,
right?
There was even an opportunity where one of my favorite directors of all time, he was in Arizona and I was driving through Arizona and I just sent him an Instagram DM and said, hey, I'm actually passing through. I'm from out of town. I'm from Dallas. And
wait, your favorite director's not me?
Nope. Just kidding. This guy's my favorite.
I'm leaving.
My second favorite. The second most influential director for me. But he's based out of Arizona, and I happened to be passing through, and I was like, hey, I follow you. You've made a big impact on me in my life. Love your work. I'm going to be in town for the next 2 days. If there's any projects that you have, I'd love to be extra hands on set. And I shot that DM to him, DM, gotta clarify. And he messaged back within a couple minutes and said, can you be here today and tomorrow? And so I was like, cool, jumped in my car. Turned out to be a production that was going to Netflix. So literally got onto a Netflix set just by sending an Instagram DM to someone when I happened to be out of state and in town. That also wound up leading me to meet the producers of that project, and a year later took me to another Netflix set out in Austin, and to this day, we've stayed in touch, and I have a relationship with multiple directors and producers, all from one Instagram DM. So
yeah, I got an important question to ask you.
Yeah.
Because I think this needs to be known, and maybe I'm wrong. Did you get paid for that project?
I did not.
So
I got paid for the second one when they hit me back up.
So this is a point that I wanted to make in this, and I hate saying this, but it is a way, because the competition is so tough right now. It's hard to get your foot in the door. Okay, I'll be honest. Like, if you don't have any portfolio work, if you're still starting out, it's going to be really hard to get the attention of some of these people. And so Joey offering that free help, hey, I just want to come be on set. And so one of my things that I suggest is like offer, hey, can I just come and be extra hands? Can I come and be behind the scenes, right? Now I would say, don't do it twice, right? Just give them that one time, show them what you're capable of on set. Be the proactive person on set, because I don't like anybody working for free. I like people to get paid for your work, right? For your time. But there are opportunities where there's no more budget to add anybody else to this team. But if you're really wanting to be on that project and see what it's like, right? You want to see that director, you want to see that, then offer that free help. And don't be afraid to be like, hey, I'll just be extra hands. I'll come and I have a camera, I would love to shoot some behind the scenes content for your socials, and I'll just give you all the footage afterwards, right? Now they're seeing, if they accept that, they're seeing how you shoot, the visuals, right? Fun story, when Joey and when our relationship was just starting out, I was on a feature film called Washington's Armor. It was a period piece, a feature film, shot over many years, and I got Joey on that set as the behind-the-scenes guy. Now, I was paying him, which is good, a little bit. We pay you more now than we did back then. So he was getting paid, and he wowed everybody on that set, okay? Like, because we were showing the behind-the-scenes video. So the company, we were making behind-the-scenes content, raising a fan base for funding, and everybody's like, wow, Joey's awesome. Guess who finished the feature film series? This guy. They ended up hiring him after some other DPs went through it was a series, and now you're gearing up in November to shoot another leg of it. And so that's how valuable being a BTS, like behind-the-scenes content creator, can be for other companies.
Yeah.
Because not only are you just providing them with something that's very useful, but they're also looking at like how you operate on set, right? Are you professional? Are you out of the way? Your phone's not going off on set, you know? And they then get to see the way you shoot. Even though it's kind of news coverage or behind the scenes, Joey's getting all artsy, man. He's shooting low angles, rolling the camera, and that was showing them that like, hey, this guy's an artist. Maybe we should check him out.
Yeah. Just to expand on that too, the way that happened was they hired me for BTS. They saw the BTS. I got moved to second unit B camera operator. From there, the DP wound up having a thing, had to go. So they moved me to second unit DP. And then the DP wound up having to back out, and then it jumped to first unit DP. So just in one film, in one feature, I went from the behind the scenes guy that wasn't helping the film at all, I was just documenting it, to being first unit DP of a multi-million-dollar film. Yep. Just from being on the set and showing what I could do. And we have countless other stories of people that have worked for us that have basically just done BTS, and it's like, oh, you're ready for client work.
I'd say BTS is one of the hottest ways to get in. Also being just that PA, that proactive PA on set, right? Don't have your hands in your pocket. Don't wait for somebody to tell you something to do. Ask your department, hey, what can I do? What can I carry? What can I do? Be proactive. You're going to stand out on set and get called back. I know we're almost out of time. I want to make sure we save room for questions, but I want to say a few things that you can do right now while you're in college. Because you're hearing all this, you're like, cool, it's great, sounds good, but what can they do right now while you're in college? And these are things that I wish I would have done, right? And so one of the big things I know that y'all have here is the Kickstarter. I would definitely say go to that, okay? You're gonna meet a lot of industry professionals, okay, from the panelists, from people just coming and supporting as alumni, network there, okay? They do like speed networking. We, as a company, hire a lot of our interns from that Kickstarter campaign in the past. We've got talent from that.
In fact, there's, I think, 4 people in this room who have been hired from coming to the career
That's right. We have
Kickstarter.
four interns that
who
now
have done projects with us.
That's right. Even our podcast producer Bella over here, who is responsible for the Rough Cut Club, interned with us for how long? 6 months, year?
Before signing on, I think about 6 or 7 months.
6 or 7 months. So that gets my next point. Find internships. Again, when I was going through school, I didn't think, I wasn't aware that there was other production companies, and I don't think there were many that I could have even interned at, right? So if you can find an internship, you're going to, one, maybe find out what you like, right? Or do you like the company? Do you like the production company? And show them that they should like you, right? Show them that you're proactive. Show them you're willing to learn. You're not expected to know anything or everything. You just need to be willing to learn, right? And like I said, if you make a mistake, just don't make it twice, right?
One of the other big things too that you can start doing right now is begin building your portfolio. And so your portfolio, while I was talking about it being on Instagram, essentially is all, what you're putting on Instagram is the projects that you've accomplished. And so if you can work on really trying to get as many incredible pieces of content that you can show when you graduate, that's your ticket right there. Anytime somebody wants to work for me, saying this in a university, but I don't ask to see their degree, I ask to see the projects that they've done. And if they have really, really incredible projects in their portfolio, then I want to hire you. After I find out if you're going to be great around clients and be good on set, just personality-wise. But before we even get to that, like, you've got to prove to me with your portfolio that you're worth even having a conversation with.
Question for you.
Yeah.
How do they build their portfolio?
Man,
how many clients? They don't. Give us. And I got a couple ideas, but I think we're doing the same thing. How do they build it?
Spec projects and passion projects are going to be the 2 things that really allow you to get more work under your belt. And so if you have original ideas or you have friends that you can make videos with, I know some of this sounds really cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. Like building your portfolio with as many passion projects as you can is critical to like right out the gate of being in college.
And I'll jump in and say passion projects are great, okay? It's good to be passionate about stuff, but if you're trying to build a business or maybe you're trying to attract a freelance opportunity, spec shoots. What do we mean by spec shoots? Take a Red Bull can, make a 15-second commercial with it, make it look high-end, and now you've got a spec commercial, okay? You can show like, hey, I did this with Red Bull. They didn't hire me, but I made this commercial, and I can do this for your XYZ soda, right? Or Mr. DP, like, this is how I was able to light this. Can I come now be on your set and help you light this product video that I see that you're making? So spec shoots to me are real life proof. Passion project, and again, passion projects can be spec shoots as well. They can definitely be the same thing. But I would say sometimes when I'm looking at resumes and stuff, short films, they're cool, they're fun, but to me, I go, okay, well, that's narrative. That's more like in the commercial space, right? If you're trying to go narrative and feature film, that's great. But if I'm looking for people that can make ad spots, commercials, social content, I'm looking for people that can make spec content. Can you sell me a pencil, right? Make a spec commercial for a pencil and make me want to buy it, and I'm gonna be like, okay, you know how to light and tell a good story about this pencil that made me motivated to buy it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you could focus on building your portfolio, you guys all have access to cameras here, which is really cool. Yeah. And even if you didn't, a lot of you guys probably just saw that they are doing the first like $100 million feature film shot on an iPhone. And so 28 years later, I think, it's being shot on an iPhone. And at the end of the day, if you can tell an incredible story, the camera that you have doesn't really matter. And so I I think, man, just to get us into questions, I'd love to turn it over to them. But this episode has probably felt like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, sorry. We definitely could talk a lot more on each of these topics.
Yeah.
Last thing before we go, when you send a resume, make sure you have, and I know Joey always says this too, the link to your work. Okay, so if we get a resume, we're like, really cool. Like I enjoy looking at a resume and seeing past work that relates to filmmaking or whatever job you're looking at, but add that portfolio link, especially if you're an editor or a camera operator, right?
Yeah.
I understand like maybe you're a producer, you don't have a lot of portfolio work. But if you do have work, make sure that is in that email or that portfolio, so that way, because we are always going to ask, hey, send us a link, right? So have that gathered, whether it's a demo reel or even links to finished products, because we want to see like the real thing, not just a reel, because anybody can make a reel look good. We want to see like from start to finish, what does a 2-minute testimonial video look like? And what does a wedding film look like?
I'll skip over resumes entirely if they don't have any work on there. It could look like the best, most sexy resume of all time, and if it doesn't have any work on there, like I feel like you're hiding something at that point. And at this current stage, you may not have that, and that's totally okay. But making that one of your primary targets to build that portfolio through college projects, class projects. So many of the projects that I did in class was my portfolio when I, day one, was out of UNT, and that was what I was using as my calling cards. And so if you can focus your time and energy and really make those projects all that you can make them to be, then you're gonna be in a better position when you come to showing somebody that portfolio, even if it's just in a Google Drive link. It doesn't have to be on a beautiful website. I just wanna see the video.
All right, let's get to the Q&A, man.
So my first question, in terms of cinematography, I'm actually interested in buying the camera. I'm still currently trying to save up money to buy an FX30. And I've been doing some research here and there about what else I could buy with the camera. So in short, what things additionally to the camera should I get to even make a short film or something that can get me set up from the jump?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. What I would say is, one, the FX30 is a fantastic option right out the gate. And to even add a little bit more to the front end of this before I get into the answer, because a lot of people are wondering, what camera do I buy when I get out of college? And ultimately, it's the one that you can afford. And so if you can't afford a brand new Arri Alexa camera, like, congratulations, you're with everybody else. And so I will say, though, that in my experience, I remember waiting and saving money to get the camera that I wanted, rather than settling for something that I wasn't going to be happy with like a few months after making money. Because when you're at the position that you're at right now, buying a camera feels like this massive expense rather than an investment. And so I didn't realize how quickly, I think I wound up, just for total transparency, I bought a camera, a lens, and like a Metabones adapter, and I think altogether the setup with the lenses that I wanted cost $5,000. And that was like the biggest mountain of cash that like was just unsurmountable at that time, and I like dumped everything that I had into it, and it paid itself off in 3 months. And I was like, dang, I was really stressing this purchase, and I was able to pay it off in a short time, and it reshifted my mind to the way that I thought about investing in gear. And if you can find essential gear, it's not an expense, but an investment that will generate income. And you still want to be wise about the purchases that you make and not go crazy and jump off the deep end and become a gearhead. But there are certain essential pieces of gear that you need to do a project. One of the things that I would say that you want to invest in, you want to absolutely have extra batteries. So you're going to find that the camera comes with one battery, you're going to want a lot of them. You're going to want extra media cards. You're going to get projects that you're going to want lots of media. You're going to want a tripod. Depending on the type of work that you're going to do, you may want some sort of gimbal or stabilization. DJI makes fantastic Ronins and whatnot that are great for right out the gate. An onboard microphone is something that you'll also want. So a lot of times you won't have the ability to set these up, and you just have to capture good audio on the fly. A good onboard shotgun microphone is essential. And then depending on the type of work that you're doing, you're gonna want some sort of lighting. And if you do any sort of like corporate or commercial project, a light is gonna be involved. Pretty much the only time it may not is if you're doing events. Events you don't really have control a lot of times to throw lights up. But if you're doing any other sort of work, investing in a light is gonna be even just one powerful one. I would recommend Amaran or Godox to get started. Amarans are actually, I think, one of these lights that we have up on us right now is an Amaran, and they're like a few $100s. They're super inexpensive, comparatively speaking, to lighting. But that's kind of like some big things that I would say right out the gate to get started.
And he could talk about gear all day, so I'm going to cut him
Yeah.
off. But one big thing you want to remember, it's all a write-off too. Make sure
Yes.
that when you're doing your taxes, if you're going to be claiming self-employed income, you want to make sure that you're writing off all of those expenses. So keep your receipts, get with your CPA, your tax, accountant, or TurboTax, whatever you use. Make sure you have all of that info and be proactive about storing that info so you don't have to do it at the end of the year either.
Any other
Great
questions? Yeah.
There's another one.
This question is, do you think that UNT prepared you for life as a film person?
Mary Elena, cover your ears. No, I will say did I feel totally prepared? Probably not, but I think that's okay because I don't know anybody that in honestly any industry that actually is prepared for the role when they come out of college. I feel like the more that I've talked to other industries that aren't even filmmaking related, they're like, I went to school for 4 years and I'm so nervous on day one because I feel like I've never really done it. And I would say that I got prepared enough to the point to where I could meet somebody and start doing my best, and it's a growing period over time. I would say don't have an expectation to be excellent right out of college because I don't think that I felt excellent at my craft. Like they say it takes 10,000 hours to become a master of something, and so you're not even gonna have close to that amount of time to really become a master at your craft and for years and years down the road. But you will get better every single time you step on set. Just getting your foot on your first like official set and then doing it again and again and again. And it's like I can talk to a handful of guys in this room that were not ready for set when they came their very first day, but now they're super comfortable when they show up on set, and that's to be expected.
Yeah.
And my second question is, like I know you were just telling, to pick it back off what he was saying, like it's not really about what the camera you have. I mean, we all have cell phones.
Yep.
But like every time like I pull up to a shoot and I pull out my cell phone, nobody takes me serious. So I'm like, okay, it's time to go get a camera. But like, what is like the best camera that you can get as a college student? And like the FX is
Yeah.
a little expensive, but we all want the same quality, and we want a good quality camera, but less expensive.
Totally.
So what is your suggestion?
Yeah, one creative idea is you can rent cameras too. You can go get online at Lens Rentals. I know it's Lens Rentals, but they also rent cameras, and you can rent them for sometimes like $15 a day.
Share Grid's another one where industry professionals, like Joey and I both have Share Grids, and we have gear listed on there. Studio production houses have rental equipment. If you go through like Lens Rental, it's a pretty smooth online process. Like you said, it's pretty economical. Share Grid is your neighbors. It's people in the community. If you rent through a production house or a rental house like that's established, then you got to have insurance. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do. So I would definitely recommend the Share Grid or the Lens Rental approach.
Yeah, I built my career on a Panasonic GH5, and those were amazing when they came out, and in my opinion, they're still amazing today, and they're gonna be probably pennies. They're not pennies, but you can find a used. I sold mine used for, I think, $500. And I will say that if you don't have probably, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say $1,500 to invest in a camera plus a lens, you probably wanna just keep saving until you get to at least that point. If you,
I would say Facebook Marketplace though too.
Yeah.
Buy secondhand. It's
Buy
kind of like
used.
cars. Buy used. Okay. Everybody wants the FX30s, the FX3s. They want a brand new, the red Raptor or whatever that just came out. But I'm always looking at like, okay, but these other things are still industry standard. Does it do what I need it to do?
Right.
Does it shoot 4K? Do you need 4K for your project? Maybe you don't. Maybe you just need 1080 HD because you're putting it on online, or you're shooting vertical and you want to do, so you got to think about like what you actually need. And then, I mean, I'm a thrifty shopper, even as a production owner, studio owner. We buy a lot of new stuff, but there is opportunity to buy used. And like Joey said, it's an investment, and then you're going to level up. So going back to, I didn't want to jump in, but when you do buy that camera, know that it's just one of many cameras you're going to have, right? So it's just a tool on a ladder that's going to keep you climbing. So like, I would almost say like, don't overthink it. Like you said, come up with a budget, kind of research and look at some different camera models that like, I need it to shoot 4K. I want to be able to shoot slow-mo, so I need 60 frames per second. Look at me talking technical.
I know.
I still got it. So you kind of think about those things you need. And then you need glass, right? Lenses, batteries, that kind of thing. But I think renting is a great affordable option. So if you have a gig and you're like, oh man, I need to show up, rent it. But here's a huge tip. Rent it for a little bit longer. You don't want it just for the day. You want it a day or two before. You're gonna go pick up that rental. Yeah, you gotta pay $15 for the extra day or whatever. You're gonna get on YouTube. You're gonna sit there and watch the YouTube thing, and you're gonna learn every single feature of that camera. Then when you go to set, you're confident, you're prepared, you know all the ins and outs of that camera. Because that's the biggest thing about renting. If you rent and you show up and you're like, then you're stressed, right? Because you're like, I don't know where the buttons are. I don't know how this operates. So I definitely say make sure that you're familiar with that camera as well when you rent it.
Yeah, I didn't want to rent really. I wish I had going back because it's fantastic. But anything that is like an older generation camera that there's a new one out in its place is going to be significantly cheaper. And when after this podcast episode wraps, I'll connect with you and share some multiple different models that I think would be really excellent choice.
Thank you, guys.
Hi. So obviously film and TV has evolved quite a bit since 2009 and even 2017. And as you had said earlier, Shane, you're always learning stuff in this industry. So I was just curious, is there any current like emerging trends on the horizon that you guys kind of have your eye on right now to integrate into your productions that maybe we should also keep an eye on and kind of keep tabs on?
This is a whole this is a great podcast.
Yeah, it is.
This is a whole podcast episode right here. I'm gonna just quick content creators, right? What I'm seeing my clients need now is literally people with cell phones. So I know you said like, oh, I show up with a cell phone. Some of my clients are saying, no, don't bring the red camera. Don't bring the Sony FX30s. I want to shoot this on iPhone because I want it to look very, organic, and we're going to TikTok with it. So now I'm going, oh man, I need to hire a content creator. So learning the content creator game and how to like package and market that and get good at transitions and reels and social media content, huge. That was the thing. Again, 2009 didn't exist, wasn't even on the radar. And now I think there's a whole industry for it. There are people actively hiring those positions. The other thing that I can think of top of head is AI. Understanding AI generated content, being able to utilize AI, whether it's in Photoshop and filmmaking, is going to be huge. We're still just, it changes on the weekly, right? We're excited. Know that it's a tool. Like, we're not scared of it. I know a lot of production companies are like, oh, it's going to replace us. And it's like, no, it's not going to replace you. You're going to use it as a tool, right? It's like the camera. How can you utilize this to tell better stories? And then finally, I would say, I don't know, I love FPV drone stuff. So if you're a drone junkie, and that's been out for a while, but I think there's a kind of a niche industry for that. So if you wanted to really, I've seen guys and girls on Instagram that just take off their career because they just dedicated it to like, let me just be the expert at FPV drones, right? You could be that guy or girl that is that solution for a production company, because when I need a specialized thing, I'm going to look for that expert in the industry first and try to hire that FPV drone operator. So that's my 3.
Yeah, I actually, what's funny is 2 of those were the ones that first came to mind as well, and I'll piggyback on it. But I underestimated how much social media content I would be creating when I graduated from college. And so right out of the gate, it's something that all you need is an iPhone to make. And I have actually shown up with my full kit, and they're like, hey, we want you to shoot this on an iPhone. Because, and I'll say this, for companies, these cameras and everything, they create credibility, but iPhones create relatability. And so a lot of times when you're surfing and you're scrolling, it's like, oh, I can relate to this person that just shot this on an iPhone. And if you see one of these nice videos on social, you feel like you're being sold to right out the gate. And so even now, like iPhone camera videography is gonna be even bigger for you guys when y'all get out of school. And so honestly, the best advice that I can give you for that is to really focus on how you can tell better stories, because the camera that you use is not gonna be what separates you, and not even your talent as a cinematographer, because there's tons of amazing cinematographers out there. It's gonna be, how can you tell the best story that makes me wanna stay watching your video? Because as you guys know, when y'all watch videos on Instagram, it's like this. And it's literally like you have to capture someone's attention within the first second, and how you tell the story is going to be way more impactful on how well you do as a filmmaker than the type of equipment that you're using.
Preach. That's great.
Thank you.
Hi, so I have 2 questions. The first one is, how important is having like previous experience to you guys when you're looking for people to either employ or interning?
So I'll answer that first. We've hired tons of people. In fact, 4 people in this room have been brought onto projects, and we've known that they've never stepped onto set before. And so as long as you're being straight upfront and honest about like your experience level on set, coming to set and being eager to learn and eager to help out is, especially when I know like you're fresh out of college, that is gonna be way more important to me. When I see a hustler and a go-getter and somebody who is on set and they're always like, how can I help? What can I do? Do you need me to clean this up? Can I grab this for you? Do y'all need water, coffee? Can I do anything at all for you? Can I wrap these cables? Whatever. If you're proactive on set, that's gonna go way further than having set experience when you're trying to get hired right out the gate. And I cannot emphasize that enough. There have been so many people that I've given an opportunity to, and I've seen them not know what to do, so they sit down on their phone and they start texting because nobody's delegating a task for them, and they don't get a call back. But I've had other people that are like bugging me and bothering me to the point where I wanna punt them because they're like, how can I help? How can I help? And it's like, you're getting hired again. And that's where you prove your worth when you're on set. So that would be the thing that I would say is most important.
And be eager to learn too, right? And don't be afraid to ask those questions. I remember being on like my first feature film, and I was just like, I can't ask the DP anything. I was camera department, and I actually got it all the way up to first AC on that. But I was like, I don't want to slow him down. But I realized that he was willing when the appropriate times, use those moments to learn, because they're seeing you learn, right? So you want to ask those questions when it's appropriate, right? To show that you're soaking it in. So I would ask questions. Okay, well, how do you build the camera out like this? Okay, why do you do this? Okay, cool. Now when we're coming back to set, I've got it all built out and ready for him, right? And so now I'm showing you that I've learned exactly what you wanted me to do. So before I even, when we get on the set and we're building, as a director, I'm like, I need a video village set up with my 2 monitors. I need my chair there. I need my coffee. And then if my video assist or my second AD already has all that set up because we've showed them how to do it once or twice, that is huge, right? Then I'm like, I'm not going to set without this person. I want this person on my set every time because my life just got a lot easier, and we were really smooth on set. So I echo that.
Yeah.
Experience isn't important. We expect to give you that experience. It's the attitude and willingness to learn.
And the other thing that I would just piggyback onto that is most creatives are really overly excited to tell you what they know. And so when you guys talk with me offline about cameras and lenses and lighting and all that, I'm pretty eager to share everything that I know because this stuff excites me. And most creatives are the same way. If you're excited about the craft, you're not annoyed by questions. You remember being in that space needing to learn how to wrap cables for the first time. And so you're happy to teach them, but knowing when somebody has time to actually pour into that versus like, hey, we're behind right now. Like, I just need to do what needs to get done, and I'll teach you when I can. It's just about knowing when to insert those questions too. But
Great question.
yeah.
And then my second question was, at any point in your guys' journey, did you ever have a sense of doubt on like what you were doing or what you wanted to do? And if so, how did you overcome it or pivot from those feelings? Like, what advice would you give to us?
Every day.
Yeah, literally every day.
So there's the thing called imposter syndrome, and it's very real, probably in a lot of different industries. So I'm sitting here as a CEO of a studio production company. We have 11 employees. We have probably 40 or 50 contractors we use. We do a ton of business all over DFW. We travel all over, and I still go, is this real or am I doing this right? Okay, so that's normal. So yes, I think having doubts is going to be normal, but problem solving that is how I get through it all the time, right? That's that failure thing, right? And kind of mitigating risk before it happens. And then personally, I've gone from being a DP, right? I've DP'd award-winning short films and things like that, and now I'm like, I don't know how to operate the camera, right? But I can direct or I can produce. And so changing my career path, like Joey's been a DP pretty much, he's been camera and DP, and I've kind of gone through a lot of different things. And I will say I missed some of those parts of the journey, right? And so I think it's different for everybody. You don't know what your journey is going to be, and I think for me it was not that I had doubts, but I said, oh, I enjoyed doing this. I really enjoyed editing. I loved editing, telling the story. But then I go, yeah, but what if I get to direct and I get to control the story on set, not even just in the edit room, right? So I kind of have had those opportunities to kind of progress and do different things, and I think that's okay. I think that's one of the biggest things that I didn't know when I graduated. I thought, like, I'm gonna have to like get committed to camera department and do camera department forever, right? And it's good to build up portfolio, especially if it's like, this is what I want to do, but be open to like one day, maybe you want to direct, maybe you want to edit, and that's okay. So I would say, yeah, I got doubts all the time, and that's part of the welcome to the industry.
Yeah, the thing that I would add to that is I think it's natural as you're evolving in your career to see the current stage that you're in and begin to wonder, am I ready to move up to the next level? Or am I ready to do something different, to his point? And so I'm constantly evaluating things like even the type of projects that I'm doing. For a long time when we got started, I was doing a ton of wedding films and tons of run and gun event coverage. And it got to a point to where I was like, I really want to lean into this DP thing more. And I feel like if I continue to do wedding films, like ultimately they may be making me great money, but I feel like I will be better served positioning my time and energy to just DP projects. And that was a season of doubt where I was like, do I turn down this huge lump sum of money that has been a sustaining source of income for me for years to go pursue this thing that hasn't started paying me as much you And that was a doubt, you know what I mean? I was like, should I still do this and build this? Should I not? And as you inch through every different stage of your life and your career, you're gonna be unsure, and you just have to know that that is part of the process, and just handle each one of those, mitigate risk as much as possible, but also trust your gut. It's if you feel like you are at peace internally with a decision, that's how I guide everything. And when my piece is out of, equilibrium, then it's like I got to be brave enough to take a risk and do something different.
I was annoyed when he stopped shooting weddings because I needed him to shoot weddings, and he stopped. But he did it for a branding perspective, right? If he's putting stuff out, and he's like, I'm not a wedding and a commercial guy, I'm a commercial guy, right? So it was, to his point, he trusted his gut, but he was doing it strategically. And so then I had to find more wedding filmmakers, but that's all right.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. All right, we got time for a couple more. I mean, I know we're way over, but y'all got one or two more? We got two more up front?
Time for one more question.
Okay.
You guys pick. Where do I go?
He was first up in the room today.
All right.
Dylan, right?
Yeah.
Dylan's got a question.
So I'm kind of just I'm just a freshman here, just starting out. When would you guys recommend the best time is to start looking for internships?
Yesterday.
All right.
For sure.
Just
As soon as possible.
Owen, what year are you again?
I'm a junior.
He's a junior, and he's already completed an internship with us. Did you get a lot out of the internship?
I did. It was so worth it for me. I think it was just worth it because I've never done any like commercial corporate wedding stuff. So it was just kind of like nice having just being in an office space for the first time ever. It was completely new to me, and I got a lot out of it. So
I personally, I did not do an internship in college, and I wish that I had, because I got so much more out of just being able to absorb what other industry professionals did, how they moved when they were on a film set. And if you have the opportunity to get an internship with a production company, even if it's not for college credit, I think there is an immense amount of value in doing that. And if you can take internships, if you have the financial and time capabilities to do internships the entire time you're in college, I think that is one of the best moves that you can make as a freshman.
And to tag on to that too, there's a limit on internships, right? There's only so many production companies, even us, we can only take on so many interns. So you might want to start now, because it might be till sophomore or junior by the time you get an internship somewhere. And if you do get an internship, jump around. Potentially, you might find a production company you love, right? And you're like, man, I want an internship here as much as I can. I'm really learning a lot. Maybe there's future potential for them to hire me. Or do the network thing where you can jump around. I know one of our guys, Jacob Deering, he did that. He interned at several different production companies, and then once he graduated, we use him as a freelancer. The other production companies use him as a freelancer. He just built a network because he put in the time while he was in school.
And he built a network of the companies that are going to feed him multiple jobs a year. Yep. And so I think that goes back to building a network, and you're going to meet other people when you're on set that it's like, oh, you're a shooter, you're an audio, you're a director, you're a producer, you're in hair and makeup, whatever. And all of the people on a film set, try to shake hands with every one of them, because I can't tell you how many random jobs I've gotten from a hair and makeup girl that knew a director that needed a DP. And so if I would take as many internships as possible, and if you can start next semester, go for it. Well, man, I think that concludes the Q&A for the episode. We definitely are going to be able to answer more Q&As after this episode wraps. But man, this was really a breath of fresh air to come back and pour into the students that were sitting in the chair that I once sat in. So great episode, and hopefully we see some of these people in the field. They make me nervous. They make me sweat. They're going to be the competition in the coming generation. So
come and take Joey's job.
Yeah, come and take it.
There.
That's like the flag. Right. There you go.
You guys are the future of filmmaking. It's very exciting. It is the wild west right now. There's so much opportunity. There is a lot of saturation. There's a lot of competition. So like Joey had said, think about how you can stand out in your storytelling techniques. Think about how you can network. Think about how you can differentiate yourself from other filmmakers, right? And you're at the best film school college in Texas, our alma mater. So this episode has just been a nostalgic breath of fresh air, like you said.
Love it. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode if you're listening to the audio version, and we'll see you next time on the Rough Cut Club. And that's a wrap for today's episode. If you're still here, you're either obsessed with filmmaking or love hearing us talk, and honestly, we're cool with both. So thanks for tuning in and being a part of our Rough Cut community. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on our socials and subscribe so you never miss out on future content. And if you have a moment, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It's kind of like giving us an Oscar, but helps us reach even more awesome listeners like yourself. Oh, and remember to join our Patreon for an exclusive backstage pass to our community, discounts on club merch, and even more ways to get involved with the show. Lastly, if you have thoughts, questions, or ideas for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay curious and keep creating.